Okay, I think that we can go ahead and get started if you guys are ready. While some more people join us, I'm just going to go ahead and give a brief introduction. So welcome to our webinar. This webinar today is designed to help small business owners gain more knowledge on the many loan programs recently created to assist you during the coronavirus crisis. I'm Courtney Moberly. I'm a team member with Top of Mind Public Relations. Top of Mind PR is an award-winning boutique public relations and marketing firm. Through traditional media, social media, and e-marketing, our firm positions businesses as market leaders. Our initiatives are always aligned with our clients' business development goals. Now, we are refocusing our efforts to provide solutions to businesses in these difficult moments. Our guest speakers today are Carrie Baron and Michael Strohmenger with Baron Strohmenger LLC, an accounting and advisory firm. Together, they will share information on the Paycheck Protection Program, forgiveness of Paycheck Protection Loans, and 4 other loan programs designed to help small business owners. They will present for about 20 minutes, at which time we will begin the question and answer period. If you did not have a chance to submit your questions ahead of time, feel free to write them in the webinar chat as we go along. Without further ado, Carrie and Michael.
Thank you so much, Courtney. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for joining, everyone watching us from home. And you'll see this is a meeting that we are both taking in our homes because we're all impacted by this crisis. And the reason that we wanted to put together a webinar is because we have some very important programs that are being released this week. And I want to make sure that we talk about what programs are available, which of those programs are forgivable, because some of them are forgivable, and so that you know what your options are while we go through Corona. So thank you to Top of Mind PR for helping us host this. There are 2 pieces of information that we do want to make sure get distributed. One is our presentation. This is going to have all of the slides that we're going to be going through today. So you'll have links on where to do the applications. You'll see everything right there. And secondly, we have a 1-page summary. There's a lot of information out there, and we want you to have one concise, easy to understand place to go for information. So those will be available, and please feel free to follow along.
They're currently available if you go into the chat and you click on chat. The 2 links at the very top of the screen are to a Google Drive, and you can download them now and follow along with us.
Thank you. Perfect. All right. So I think most of you know who we are. Thank you so much, Courtney, for the introduction. So I'm going to go ahead and start. All right. So the first program that I want to talk about is the Paycheck Protection Program. I'm going to start calling that the PPP. The Paycheck Protection Program is very interesting because this is a loan that's for businesses that is potentially forgivable, which is very interesting. The goal of this program, they want to keep workers employed. So the whole idea is that if you have employees, if you have staff, and when I say staff, I'm referring to both 1099 independent contractors as well as W-2 employees. So you're able to take out a loan that's maxed out at 2.5 times your monthly payroll. The loan is going to be capped at $10 million, so you've got a lot of wiggle room in that. And to apply for this, this is not a loan through SBA directly. This is going to be through an SBA provider bank. So what's very cool about this is going to be for your payroll itself, the 1099, the W-2s. You have a term of 2 years to pay back and an interest rate of 0.5%, which is pretty incredible. So you can spend this money on other things other than payroll. You can spend it on business mortgage or rent, business utilities. But if you look at the next page, what makes the PPP program so interesting is that this loan can be forgiven if 75% of the funds are used to pay for payroll And again, 1099 and W-2. And again, the whole idea is that you want to keep people employed. So as long as that staff stays on payroll for 8 weeks following loan origination, meaning when you got that loan, you're going to have the loan forgiven, which is incredible. So the first date to apply for that is tomorrow. You cannot apply today, which is the whole reason we wanted to do the webinar, because we wanted to make sure that our friends and family and our clients know about this program and know that you can prepare for this for tomorrow. Okay, so we did provide links on where you can go to do this, and there are lists of which banks are SBA provider banks. Okay, a very important second program that is worth your time to talk about is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, and otherwise known as the EIDL, and the EIDL grant. Two different things. You've got the EIDL loan and the EIDL grant. They work a little differently, so I want to make sure you're aware of the differences. Very importantly, the EIDL grant is a $10,000 SBA emergency grant that you can get within 3 days of submitting an application. And again, the grant portion is potentially forgivable. So the whole goal of this program, as opposed to PPP, which is focused on payroll, the EIDL is focused on your general operating expenses. Expenses like your utilities, expenses like your business mortgage, your business rent, business debt, production costs, sick leave. All of those it'll cover, and you're going to be able to apply for this one to SBA directly. Remember that PPP is through SBA provider banks, so different. You've got a term of up to 30 years, and the interest rate on this is going to be a 3.75%. So again, very low interest rates, and a cap of $2 million on that loan. So here's where this gets interesting. The forgiveness of the EIDL grant. And when I talk about the grant, remember that's the $10,000 portion of this. So you can forgive the $10,000 grant, assuming that your business was operational as of January 31st. You already had to be in existence. Your business should have under 500 employees, and your funds are going to be used for eligible expenses. So again, these are operational. So anything needed to run your business, you're going to be able to use with the EIDL funds. You're already able to apply. Those are already available. You can apply between January 31st and December 31st. And what's interesting about this is that not only are you able to forgive this $10,000, you can also get this regardless of if you're approved for the loan. So this is a very, very interesting program, and something that we want to make sure that our friends, our family, our clients are aware of, so that you can participate in this. Okay, so if you apply for an EIDL grant, you can still apply for the PPP loan. It's just the amount forgiven under PPP is going to be reduced by the $10,000 grant. So you're going to provide separate expenses. Our advice is to use as much as possible EIDL for your operational expenses and PPP for your payroll. So plan ahead. We did provide a very, we did provide a summary of the two programs so that you can see a little bit more in detail. We wanted to keep this very simple, very high level overview, but remember, we're focusing on the two that can be forgiven. EIDL grant, not the EIDL loan, and your PPP. All right, so separate from that, we have the stimulus package. Stimulus package is very interesting because you can get $1,200 if you are single and you have an AGI, an adjusted gross income, under $75,000. If you're married, it's double that. It's up to $150,000, and you can get $1,200 per spouse, or $2,400. This is going to be, we've gotten a lot of questions on this also. To get the stimulus, This is going to be based on your 2019 tax return. If you haven't filed 2019, it'll be based on your 2018. If you haven't filed for either year, it's still possible to apply for this through a web-based system. So please do plan ahead. All right, and the last one that I do want to make sure I bring up, just because it exists and it's been around prior to these new programs that come out, we do have the bridge loan as another option, which is a program that's been around for a very long time. It's pre-existing. It's run by the state of Florida and set up for disasters. You can take a loan of up to $50,000 interest-free for 1 year. So very interesting. You just have to apply by May 8th. And we want to make sure that we know that there's a lot going on with this. There's a lot to consider, and I really want to make sure that you can use us as a resource. So of course, we did provide our contact information. Please feel free to reach out to us anytime that we can be of help or guide. And I believe we're going to open up the floor to some questions.
Hi, yeah, so okay, if you're ready, we can go ahead and start going through the questions. So we did receive a few ahead of time. And the first question is this. In my business, I'm the registered owner and receive distributions from the company, not a salary. Can I apply for unemployment even though I'm planning to apply for the PPP to cover payroll expenses?
If your business is still in operation and you're taking distributions, you're still going to have pass-through income that's coming to you. So if you're not in operation and you're not generating any money, then yes, you should be able to, because solo and self-employed individuals, et cetera, were included in the recent stimulus package to expand expand unemployment. However, every state runs their unemployment system differently. So you would have to check with your individual state to make sure, but I believe in Florida you would be able to apply.
Okay, great. And then we received a question within the Q&A. With respect to the stimulus checks, what happens if 2019 has not been filed, but there was a child born in 2019?
I would recommend going through the web application and updating the information with the IRS so that they issue the check to the $500 check to the child, or try to file your return as quickly as possible if you're expecting a refund.
We can help.
Okay, great. We received another question live. When applying for payroll protection, should you attach a schedule of your payroll to establish that you're within the parameters, especially the $100,000 limit?
Right. I have an Excel spreadsheet from a bank that we work with that lists all the different information that's required for it. And in order to file for the PPP, you need to provide your 2018, 2019, and 2020 through February 15th corporate financials, which considered your business tax returns, your 941s, your 940 financial statements, and a 12-month trailing P&L. Additionally, you have to list how many companies or how many employees you have, what kind of business you're in. If you own more than one business and you're more than a 20% shareholder, you need to list all of your businesses, not just the one that's applying, because they aggregate all these different businesses together. You also have to include expenses for the last 2 years of your rent or lease, utilities, any debt, and payment any debt. And then you also have to give all of your payroll information like W-2s, 1099s, et cetera, with bank statements showing that these monies were actually paid.
Okay, I have another question from before. This was submitted to us before the webinar. I'm planning to apply for the PPP, including the following expenses: rent, payroll, health insurance, and contributions to retirement accounts. I don't pay FPL on our office as it's a part of a larger office hub. However, I do work from home. Can I also include the home utilities like FPL, alarm, and internet services?
Technically, no, you would not be able to. There might be a way to encompass it if you're charging yourself rent for your home office and you're reporting that as an expense on your tax return as well as income on your tax return. Then you would be able to, because it would consider part of your business. But typically a home office you can deduct on your individual return based on the percentage of the house that's used, and then you take that whatever percentage that is against those expenses.
Okay, great. We're getting a couple more questions in here live, so I'll switch back to the live questions. Regarding the $50,000 stimulus loan, is that for Florida companies only?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
The $50,000 loan, is that for Florida companies only?
I think they're talking about the
The bridge loan. Yeah, that would be for, it's set up by the state of Florida, and it's specifically for disaster areas that are declared in Florida, which right now under the coronavirus is the entire state. It was originally set up for farmers and things like that back when the orange groves were getting frost, et cetera, and they wouldn't have made it through the growing season without a loan.
Correct. It's worth bringing up also because the bridge loan, you know, everybody's talking about SBA, PPP, and all the programs that are out there. But it's not the only one that exists. And of course, the bridge loan has been around. It's specifically for disasters. And again, that 1 year, that first year of that bridge loan is completely interest free. So very cool option, especially for us Floridians.
We have another question. Does the $100,000 cap include the benefits or exclude benefits? For example, if you make a $100,000 salary, can you add insurance and 401k contribution, or are you capped at $100,000?
You're capped at $100,000 for salary, wages, commissions, and tips. Employee benefits are not considered part of the $100,000. But I haven't seen anything specific about this, but unless you're self-employed, if you're not providing benefits to your employees, I would be hesitant to use that money for benefits for yourself.
We have another question. Is the process for applying to the EIDL grant the same as applying for the EIDL loan, just electing to take the $10,000 advance during the application process?
Correct.
Yeah, as you apply for the EIDL loan, and this is something that we're seeing a lot of misinformation about. So to be very clear, to get the EIDL grant, remember, EIDL grant, EIDL loan, two separate things. But to get the grant, you must apply for the loan. And as you apply, you'll see there's a little box that says, I want the $10,000 advance. That's what you want to click on. And that's the portion that you'll receive within 3 business days.
Okay, great. We have another question submitted from before. We have a full-time contractor, so they don't have a W-2. To further complicate this, we pay monthly to this person's wholly owned subchapter S corp. Our payments are the only revenue to this subchapter S. Are the monthly payments to this entity covered in the program?
I would say probably not, because you're not paying an employee or a contractor, you're paying another entity. If they're in need of funds, they should go through the program themselves.
Okay, and another live question.
Actually, I'll take one step back. If the PPP program, it won't be covered, but if you went through the EIDL program, the EIDL loan program, and actually paid the 3.75%, then that would be covered by the loan, and you would have that expense.
Okay, great. Another live question. We have a business that began in 2019 and has not filed its first year tax returns yet. Can we apply, and what do we need to send?
I listed the information earlier. You would have to send any payroll information. Since you don't have tax returns for 2019 yet, proof that you filed an extension showing that you had an intention to file. You just haven't done so yet, and you'll still need financials as well as the information on your expenses.
And actually, one other thing I'd like to add to that, these have different dates, these 2 different programs that we're focused on that both have the forgiveness. If we're talking about the PPP program, that one you would have had to be in business
February 15th.
Thank you, starting February 15th, versus the EIDL, which you would have had to be in business starting January 31st. So different dates, please plan ahead.
Okay, we have a couple more questions. What is the best way to document that the money from a particular loan is actually being used for payroll?
You're going to have to show at the end of the program, after the 8 weeks, you're going to have to then turn around and show the same information that you provided to get the loan at the end of the 8 weeks in order to get the loan forgiven. What the bank is going to do is they're going to look at your payroll from February 15th through August or April 26th, and then they'll want to see what your payroll was like for the 8 weeks after the loan origination, and they're going to compare the two. And so if your payroll after that 8 weeks is less than what it would have been for the first part, then they're going to reduce the amount forgiven. So if you end up firing somebody, or if someone quits, or they get sick or whatever, and you no longer pay them, it's best for you to rehire as quickly as possible, because you don't have to have the same employees at the end of the 8 week period. You just have to have the same number of employees. Additionally, if you end up paying your employees less because, let's say, they're not working, and you don't feel that you want to pay them the full 100%, if you reduce their salary by more than 25% during this period, you'll lose your forgiveness for that, with respect to that employee as well.
That's a big deal.
Okay, great. We have another question here. I think that this kind of goes with the one that you answered earlier, but this company was only open 6 weeks before they had to close, and now they're in debt with no money coming in. Would they still qualify for the loan?
Provided that they were in business either January 31st for the idle loan or February 15th for the PPP loan.
Good. Yeah.
And they still have their employees on the PPP side.
Okay.
So for that, they probably would want to consider the idle loan instead if they're out of business and in debt. And we'll try to restart after
Because they have operational expenses.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, plan ahead. With the PPP, you want as much as possible. The PPP, think payroll. With the idle, think operational expenses. And you can't submit the same expenses to both programs.
Actually, you can only do, if you have an idle loan, you can't have a PPP loan. If you have a PPP loan, you cannot have an idle loan. But
you
no matter what,
the idle grant.
Exactly, no matter what, you can do the grant.
And remember, it's the PPP portion that you can forgive that relates to payroll, as well as the idle grant, the 10,000. So those are the two that have the forgiveness programs.
Okay, great. So I think that this question would be relevant based on what you just said. Someone sent in a question that says, if you applied for an idle loan, but don't have a loan amount or approval yet as they're backed up, how do you answer the question on the PPP if they want to know if you have an idle loan?
That's a really good question. I don't know that you're actually allowed to apply for both of them at the same time. I think you would have to wait to get rejected from the idle loan in order to apply for the PPP loan, because you can't have both of them.
Okay, great. We have another question. Will they forgive your loan if you had better income than you expected for those 8 weeks? I collect from my clients irregularly, so my income is erratic.
It has the forgiveness of the loan has no basis in whether you what your income is. It's purely based on at least 75% of the money has got to be spent on payroll.
A couple more questions. In our company LLC, my partner and I are getting paid as contractors. Can we apply for unemployment? And also, we just hired an employee in March who only got 1 month of pay. Can he apply for unemployment?
It depends on whether or not you're working. If you're bringing in revenue, then you're working, and therefore you probably cannot. One of the things you have to do when you file for unemployment is that you have to regularly update the state if you're generating income. And if you do generate income, then they're going to reduce your unemployment benefits potentially down to 0 based on how much you're bringing in. But the whole point is they want you to work. So if you can work, they're going to ask you to do so, but they're going to reduce your benefits if you are working.
Okay, let's just take a few more questions here. We have, my operating expenses were much larger in 2019 as we grew from the tax returns that were filed in 2018. Is there anything I can do to show real operating numbers for 2019 to maximize the loan amount that I can get?
You should be keeping good books. Have a financial statement prepared. If you don't have a bookkeeper, get one and have them go through your books and show that because you're going to have good books for your tax return anyways. So if you have not filed your tax return, then just have good books, because you have to turn over financial statements to the SBA or the bank.
Okay, great. We'll do one more question here. Can you cancel your application for EIDL if you just filed? I thought that you could apply for both.
I would assume so, but I'm not sure exactly how to do that. But there should be a way to do it. Although right now, getting in touch with someone at the SBA is probably going to be very difficult. I would probably email one of the email addresses that are associated with the EIDL program. And that way, at least you have evidence that you attempted to cancel.
And remember, one of the things that was so interesting about the EIDL grant is, remember, if you apply for the EIDL loan, which you have to go through the process of applying for the EIDL loan to request that $10,000 grant. So if that EIDL loan is denied, you can still get that $10,000 grant. They are not mutually exclusive. And I saw one other question is whether or not the EIDL is the same as the SBA loan.
These are all different SBA loans. The SBA has probably 20 or 30 different loan programs. These are the ones that are set up specifically for the current situation in the United States, but they've got a wide variety of programs that you can apply for at any time. One of the things about these programs is they're not the current programs they're not set up for you to expand your business. So if you're going to want to expand your business, you're going to want to go through a different SBA program.
Correct.
One last question before we wrap this up. Are there any programs that are available for landlords that have tenants who are unable to pay rent?
I imagine that the state would have something like, the bridge loan is perfect for that. That will hold you over for a year without paying any interest, and hopefully between now and that time, this will all be over and you'll have rent coming back in. There are talks about various tax credits that are going to come out. As part of the stimulus bill, they changed the definitions of qualified improvement property. So if you spent money on your improvements on your rentals in this past year in 18 or 19, under the old law, the 15-year property was not allowed to be depreciated or expensed, currently at 100% bonus. They changed that rule last week when they passed this new law. And so now you can go back and amend 18 or 19 if you've already filed to take that expense on 15-year property versus it's depreciating it over 15 years. So that hopefully that would result in a refund to you, so that you can then have more cash in your pocket.
Okay, so I think that we can kind of keep it moving if you guys are game to answer some more questions.
Yeah, this is fun.
Sure.
I love this. And people are texting me, you need to answer my question. Well, we're here.
So I have here, I'm 50% owner of one S Corp and 50% owner of another. Can both corps apply for the $10,000 grant when my social security number will come up twice?
I do not believe so, because they're going to, since you're more than a 20% owner, the two companies are going to be aggregated together as one entity. So when they look at the, actually, I take that back. I don't think there's aggregation rules for the grant, but there's aggregation rules for EIDL and for the PPP program. So if you ended up applying for a loan, then yes, you would have to combine both of those together and provide financials and employment information for both entities.
Okay, great. Can cannabis businesses also apply for the loans that have been mentioned?
Good question.
That's a very good question. I'm sure since medical cannabis is technically illegal in Florida, I'm sure you could apply for the bridge loan. For the SBA loans, under the current environment, I doubt it, but I don't know specifically.
And you'll see there are limitations on some of these programs, and you'll see that as we distribute some of the literature on this. A couple things. I want to make sure that everyone knows exactly where to go to get any of these programs. So anything that we've discussed today, we've provided links so that you can just click on the link. If you want the EIDL program, there's a link for EIDL. You want the PPP versus the bridge loan. All of those links are going to be available on our literature, so please feel free to take a look. And of course, Michael and I are always available if anyone wants to reach out to us directly. And yes, there are some limitations on the industries that these funds can go to, so please plan ahead.
One thing she mentioned is that companies that have more than 500 employees are not eligible for this. That's 98% correct. There are some industries, like if you're a franchisee of a restaurant or if you own a hotel or something like that, the SBA will look at it on a per location basis instead of a per entity basis.
Okay, so we have another question. I understand the maximum available under PPP is 2.5 times the average monthly payroll expense. Does that payroll figure include those earning more than $100,000, which factors into the forgiveness application?
They're going to cap the income for those individuals that are earning more than 100 at 100. And then so when you pay your payroll, if those individuals are receiving more than what would be weekly annualized amount for $100,000, they could potentially lose the forgiveness, because that would end up in the other 25%. They feel that $100,000 is a fair salary, and therefore anything in above that would not apply. So my recommendation is to pay yourself as if you're making $100,000 for that 8-week period, and then as soon as the 8-week period is over, go ahead and go back to paying yourself what you would have paid for more than $100,000.
I'd like to add to that, actually. I want to make sure that everyone's being very careful. Remember, this is a bill that was just passed into law on Friday of last week. And side note, it's about 1,200 pages long. So this is a lot of material that we've digested very quickly. And I want to be very careful about what resources you're using to look at this information. This is one source of information that I really like. I think it's well put together. And this was put together by the Florida Chamber of Commerce. So on that question on the $100,000, it's specifically listed. And I think that this is, very clean cut. It's very easy to read. And it says excluded payroll costs, compensation of an individual employee in excess of an annual salary of $100,000 as prorated for the period February 15th to June 30th, 2020. So with the exclusions, please take a look at some of the literature on this. It'll answer those questions, and you'll be able to find out if you're a covered industry or what payroll costs are included or excluded.
Okay, so I have another question here. I'm about to send my 941 report and my RT6. Would I be able to include those expenses in the PPP application?
No, because it's or you can include it in the application, but it would not be covered by the loan, because the expenses that are covered by the loan are for the 8 weeks following the loan origination date.
Correct. Okay, great. Would it work the same if I added an employee this year, which would not be reflected in 2019 tax returns, meaning I would submit payroll information for that employee?
I mean, if you're adding employees, that would be good. But the amount of the loan is going to be 2.5 times the amount for the testing period from February 15th to April 26th. So one of the reasons why they're giving you 2.5 times you can request 2.5 times is because if you're in a position to actually add employees, the U.S. government right now definitely wants you to do that. 2 weeks ago, the largest increase in unemployment in US history was 695,000 people in 1982. Two weeks ago, 3.3 million people applied for unemployment, and last week, 6.6 million. So 10 million people applied for unemployment in 2 weeks. The government wants you to hire, so they'll do pretty much anything to make sure you do.
Right.
Makes sense. Okay, so I have here that I applied for the SBA loan last night, which had the $10,000 advanced option. Is that the same as the EIDL loan?
That's the EIDL grant.
Which you have to apply for the EIDL loan, and part of that, right as you apply, you've got that little box to check for the EIDL grant. So one insists on the other. Good question.
Also, another question. Can officer-only quarterly payroll negatively affect the EIDL grant forgiveness?
Not to my knowledge. They just it's to cover payroll as long as the payroll is not in excess of $100,000 or annualized amount of $100,000. It should not negatively affect it. It's the fact sheets and the documentation provided by the SBA says, and it uses wages and employees and things like that. There's no exclusion of officers or owners.
Okay, great. Another question here. We pay a company for 3 call center full-time people. Can they be included in the PPP calculation?
It depends on whether or not they're employees of yours or not. If you're paying them through a PEO, then they should be considered employees. When there were various programs a couple years ago after some hurricanes, there was a question as to whether or not PEO employees were considered employees, and the IRS came out and said they were. If you're contracting with a company and they're providing you a service, which is providing you with labor, then probably not.
Okay. Can 1099 employees be included in the company PPP and file their own individual PPP request?
That is my understanding, yes. Coming from the SBA documents that I've read.
Which is pretty incredible.
So just to piggyback on that, I believe that this is just a clarification. So if we include a 1099 employee in our PPP and we don't know if they are applying for their own, will that be a problem for us later?
That's a very good question. Part of the reason that they would be applying for themselves is they're not generating any revenue. Plus, if they're showing they got twice as much income during the period, that would probably end up with the bank not forgiving the loan to the employee, in my opinion.
Okay, great. We have another question here. I applied for the disaster loan. Can I still apply for the payroll PPL loan?
If you applied for the EIDL loan, the one that's at 3.75%, then no, you cannot apply for the PPP loan. You can only apply for the $10,000 advance.
Okay. If you have one person, an attorney, taking salary from an S Corp, how do you get the loan since the income stream has greatly reduced, therefore payroll will decrease?
Well, the idea of this is that the payroll should stay the same, at least during this eight-week period. That's the reason why they have a testing period before the loan to see what your payroll was. And the whole point of this is that your payroll should not decrease as a result of the loan. The purpose of the loan and the forgiveness is that you're paying the same amount out to your employees or to yourself during this period.
Okay, we have a tax day question. The tax date is now July 15th instead of April 15th. Is it required to file extensions like in a normal year?
No, there's automatic extensions for most forms to July 15th. If you file international forms,
FR.
like a FR, that's going to automatically be extended. The one form that I'm aware of right now that potentially has not been extended is the 3520, which deals with foreign trusts.
Okay, great. So then we have another follow-up question. Can I calculate what I would be paying employees on 941 in the next cycle? And can I include those expenses in the amount that I'll include on the PPP application? meaning are employment taxes forgivable on the PPP loan?
As long as the loan is being used for payroll and including payroll taxes, they would be forgiven.
Okay, we have another question. One of my 1099 employees has recently incorporated to create her own entity. Can I still include her salary in the PPP application?
If you're paying her salary as part of your payroll to her individually, yes. If it's to the entity, as I stated earlier, it's probably just going to be considered an expense and not a part of payroll.
Okay, great. We have kind of a long question here. We are a real estate company, subchapter S Corp, and we only have 2 people on payroll and 10 on 1099s. Can we include all on the application? And how many months of payroll will they give us?
They'll give you 8 weeks of payroll. But technically they'll give you 2.5 times the pay of what your payroll actually is. But that would mean that you would need to hire people because you need to spend 75% of that on payroll. So, but you can spend part of it on rent and interest and things, utilities. But yes, you can do that. And my understanding from reading the SBA documents is that the contractors are included as well.
Yeah.
Again, the IRS wants to keep people employed.
Great
So
question.
also, they have an additional question. Also, we have 150 rental properties and people are not paying rent and we can't evict. Is there any relief or help for us to get rent replacement or money to help pay our mortgage payments, which are due?
Great question.
Again, if you don't go the PPP routes, you can go the EIDL route. You can get lent $2 million with a 30-year term, 3.75% interest rate. Or you can go, if you think it's just going to be a short-term problem, you can get up to $50,000 through the Florida Bridge loan. And hopefully, since real estate is benefited very much by Congress, that maybe the Congress will pass a law that will be some sort of stimulus just for landlords.
Okay, so we have another question. What if your payroll is totally erratic and you pay yourself in distributions? How do you calculate 8 weeks? I have an S Corp.
The IRS will again calculate what you should pay over this 8-week period based on the amount of payroll that you had from February 15th to April 26th. That will be the beginning number that they're going to use, and they're going to expect the same amount or averaged out, because I know that period's less than 8 weeks, but they're going to expect that same amount paid over the 8-week period once you get the loan. If you don't do that, then the IRS, they'll not forgive part of the loan.
Yeah, because with the PPP, the whole idea, remember, is that we're trying to keep as many people employed as possible, W-2 and 1099. So if you want the full amount of that loan to be forgiven, so long as you maintain those same staff over the 8-week period, once you receive the loan from the loan origination date, that portion will be forgivable. And just because I see it, and because we've gotten that question a lot about what's included in the payroll costs, if you take a look at the literature that was distributed by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce on this, there's a section in here that'll show you included payroll costs and portions that are not. And it specifically does say that the payment of state or local taxes assessed on the compensation of employees are included in payroll costs.
As well as employee benefits as well.
Okay, great. So if we need help with both payroll and operational expenses, but as we've touched on, you can't apply for both PPP and the EIDL, what do you recommend?
Again, like the bridge loan or something like that. There are some other programs out there that are kind of beyond the scope of this presentation, but there is a payroll tax credit that that you can get a credit next year for any kind of payroll costs that you have. I think Carrie wanted to say something too.
Yeah, so just remember with these loans, the reason that we're focusing on the PPP and on the EIDL grant, remember not the EIDL loan, is because out of all of the programs that are available, there are only 2 that have the ability to be forgiven, which is incredible. It's, you know, it's one of the participants was saying, can we say free money again? That's why this is worth talking about. So the PPP, so long as you maintain them for 8 weeks, that portion for the payroll would be forgivable. And the EIDL grant, that's the $10,000 portion, so long as those funds are used to pay for operating expenses, that's forgivable as well. So remember, the EIDL grant and the EIDL loan, you've been able to apply for those. The PPP, you couldn't have applied because the application date begins tomorrow. So it's okay if you've already applied for the EIDL grant, you absolutely, or the EIDL loan, because remember, to apply for the EIDL grant, you must apply for the EIDL loan. It's just one of the options as you're doing that application. It's irrelevant to us if you're approved for that EIDL loan. You can still get the grant regardless, and you can still apply for PPP.
Okay, so we have another question here. I applied for the $10,000 grant, not realizing that I was applying for a loan too. I plan on applying for the PPP loan. If I don't want the EIDL loan and just the grant, what do I do?
Actually, I was thinking about this since the last person that asked a similar question. You still have to go through paperwork to actually get the loan. So if you decide that you don't want it, just then once it is approved, if you can't cancel it before then, wait until it's approved and then say I no longer want it because I want to go through the PPP instead, and then they'll just cancel the loan.
Correct. Yeah, you don't necessarily need to take these funds. And remember, all of the programs that we're describing, none of them have early penalties for paying them back. You know, if you take the funds and the next day pay them right back, no problem. It's, you know, that's definitely an option. So it's, please, you know, feel free that if any of this, if you have a little bit more technical questions, Michael and I are available. You know, we've listed our cell phone numbers. You can call us, you can text us. We'd be more than happy to answer any of the specifics.
Okay, and this is another clarification. It's something that we've kind of touched on already, but the question did just come in. So it's asking if you can get a PPP loan for payroll and get the EIDL loan for rents to help pay mortgage payments.
No, you can only do the EIDL grants and the PPP loan. You cannot do the EIDL loan and the PPP loan. They're mutually exclusive.
Correct. And you can do this strategically too. I mean, let's say that you have $10,000 of operational expenses that can use EIDL grant funds, and the payroll portion can go to the PPP. And remember, payroll for W-2 and 1099. That's okay.
Okay, so I don't have any more questions here. There was a question if the webinar will be available for download. We are on Facebook Live right now, so it will be available on Facebook, and I do believe that we are recording, so we should have a way to upload it for everyone to access. And it looks like we just got one more question. So to recap, if I apply for the EIDL loan and add to receive the grant, if approved for the loan, I reject it and say that we will only be taking the grant, but we'll apply for the PPP.
Yes.
Correct. That's exactly right.
Okay. So I think that's it. I don't see any more questions coming in right now.
Beautiful.
So is there anything that you wanted to say in addition, Carrie or Michael?
It's been a pleasure.
Go ahead, Michael.
It's been a pleasure being here. Thank you for all your insightful questions. As Carrie said, I posted the links several times in the Zoom webinar chat. We have them located on the Baron Strohmenger website. Maybe Jacob can add a link on our website for people if they're looking. And thank you very much for having us.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. And I think that's it.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Top of Mind PR, for hosting us. We're so happy to be here and to be able to spread some of this information. Please remember to do your applications for PPP by tomorrow. And if
Starting tomorrow.
Yes, starting tomorrow. Thank you. Starting tomorrow. Thank you, Michael. Starting tomorrow. So if anyone has any questions, if anyone would like to reach us specifically, we have posted our contact information. The session was recorded and will be posted and available to be watched later. Anything that you need, please let us know. We are available, and we'll be working remotely throughout Corona. Thank you guys so much.
And like us on Facebook and Instagram.
Thank you.
Great. All right. Thank you guys.
Thanks a lot. Have a good day.